statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
Bitcoiners, welcome Bitcoiners, welcome traders. And I'll always draw some traders as well from my community. Welcome Bitcoiners, welcome traders, welcome followers, welcome supporters, welcome haters of Oliver Velez. I know you're listening. And welcome detractors of Bitcoin. All of you guys are welcome. All of you are welcome. Welcome to another live space with Oliver Velez, of course. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am back. I'm back to talk about our favorite topic, Bitcoin. As most of you know if you're familiar with my work just a little bit, you know that, especially here on X.com, I've dedicated this medium, if you will, to spreading the gospel of Bitcoin and my vision or view of what it's come to accomplish for human society. And I am pounding the table constantly on the fact that our window of opportunity is very small. Our window of opportunity to be amongst the elite in the future, in what I consider to be a reset that will be ignited by Bitcoin all throughout the world. I think that our window of opportunity to stake our claim in a protocol that will be the financial standard for the globe at one point in the future. I believe that our window of opportunity for staking our own individual claim in that protocol, that window is very small, and it's closing quite rapidly on us. I believe that for the first time that the world has equal footing regarding a global opportunity. And I've mentioned this a number of times before, but never in the history of the world has opportunity been so universally available at the same time to every single human being in a fair, open, and distributed way. Never before until now. Never before has every single individual on planet Earth had access, equal access, to a certain extent, to the same global opportunity. Bitcoin is the first time in the human species that opportunity is available to every single human being. Yet the opportunity that I'm speaking of was not created by a human being, can't be manipulated by a human being, can't be controlled by a human being, is not issued by a human being. And this makes Bitcoin extraordinarily unique. The opportunity that, to a certain extent, comes the closest to what I see Bitcoin as was the opportunity of the internet. I lived through this exciting time of the internet coming into its own. A lot of people don't realize that before 1994, use of the internet from a commercial angle was absolutely illegal before 1994. That's not that long ago. And in 1994, it was legalized to use the internet in any way your heart desired, for the most part. And I set up in 1994, I set up my first website for my company. I was very early in the internet space. That website, as I mentioned, I believe yesterday, you can actually go check it in the annals if you like. Wall Street Online, WSO.com, which stood for Wall Street Online. I put that website together in 1994. It launched in 1995, and it separated me, despite all the detractors, all my advisors, all the people who said, Oliver, the internet and Wall Street, they don't mix. You're going to cheapen your brand. You're going to do damage to all that you've accomplished and done. You're one of the few minorities that's come out of Wall Street and has a name for himself and so forth and so on. Why are you making this move? That the internet is for criminals. It's for porn. It's for geeky, it's for computer geeks, that no one with serious money is going to actually trust you now, because no one with serious money would ever trust to do anything over the internet. And despite all of the naysayers, I saw the vision very early. And over time, it was clear that I'd made the right decision by embracing the internet and seeing it as a global opportunity to democratize aspects of business, aspects of finance, and more importantly, to make globally accessible information and knowledge. What the internet did was to dematerialize information and knowledge and make it more accessible to the world. And that was extraordinarily powerful to me. And I couldn't understand in the mid-1990s how more people didn't see it. I lost what I considered to be a very dear friend in my industry because he advised me not to do this, and I decided to do it, and he became my enemy. And I haven't spoken to this guy to this very day, and we're talking about all the way back until the mid-1990s. And so I lived this picture before from an open protocols point of view. I saw the internet as being something global. I saw it as being open. I saw it as being fairly open and available to every single person. And I saw its power to bring accessibility to information that was really always hoarded and kept in a proprietary way from everybody. And knowledge, I saw it as a way for knowledge to be collapsed and made more available. I grew up in the world of knowledge. My mother was a librarian, which meant that I spent the majority of my hours as an adolescent, as a kid and an adolescent, in my mother's library. My mother told me that as soon as that school bell rings at 3 p.m., I better see you here in this library no later than 3:20. And I'd have to run to my mother's library until she got off at 8 p.m. at night. I understood the power of knowledge because my mother was a librarian. But I also understood many years later that the internet was going to actually make libraries obsolete. I saw how this open protocol was going to take all of that information that was locked away in a single physical place that my mother worked in and make that more available to anyone in the world, absolutely free, if they wanted to access it. I saw how the internet was going to collapse books into this protocol, into this digital world, and I couldn't understand how other people couldn't see it. Years later, it would prove my decision to go with the internet, despite all the detractors, would prove true. And then all of the people, all of the firms, all of the organizations that told me, advised me not to do this, they started playing catch up to me. I lived this before. But the thing that I understood was that I understood that it was important for me to latch on to any company that saw this vision the same way that I saw it, and decided to any company that decided to point all of their power, all of their resources to this brand new open protocol, I made huge investments in. So when Microsoft, who was not an internet fan, became an internet fan, I sunk a huge portion of my wealth in Microsoft at the time. And this is in 1997. All right. Apple, when Microsoft bought Apple shortly after that, I sunk a big portion in Apple around the same time. Microsoft first, Apple second. And then the companies that began to adopt Bitcoin or base their whole existences on, adopt Bitcoin, adopt the internet and base their whole existences on the internet. I was so fired up about this thing that I decided that I was going to sink. I was going to dedicate all of my investment career, all of my capital, all of my wealth, and I was going to direct anybody who would listen to me to companies that made it their business to be internet only, not internet, not plus the internet. I told people that no, we want to be internet only with our investments. And then came Amazon. And if you think that I'm pounding the table on Bitcoin like I'm a freaking idiot right now, you think like I'm out of my mind, you should have seen me back in the early 2000s pounding the table on Amazon. You couldn't sit down with me without talking about Amazon. You couldn't have another conversation with me. I didn't want to talk about anything else. I pounded the table and pounded the table the same way I'm pounding the table on Bitcoin today. And in 2003, I took everything that I owned that was available and I sunk it all into Amazon. 2003. And guess what? I still have some left. I've been selling out since Bitcoin stole my soul. But I'm on my last 20% of my position from all the way from 2003. And then there was NVIDIA in 2009. And then there was Meta or Facebook in 2013, whatever year they went public. I became internet centric, internet only. I was one of the first individuals in my industry with a website, one of the first companies to go all in on the internet with my Wall Street oriented business. And then I made my entire investment and trading focus on internet only entities. Sound familiar? I tell you all of this to come to this point. The internet brought to the world its first trillion-dollar companies. You see, no other companies became trillion-dollar companies really, except the internet-focused companies. The internet was responsible for taking business and taking wealth creation, productivity to an exponentially different and higher level. And so our first trillion-dollar companies were companies that were internet only. And I invested in all of them. But if the thing that helped create these trillion-dollar companies, the protocol that they pointed their businesses to, based their businesses on, if the protocol, if the companies that staked their businesses on the protocol became trillion-dollar companies, what was the value of the protocol? You see, back then, if someone had given me the opportunity to buy into the internet itself, the soil into which these companies were growing their roots, the protocol that they structured their businesses on top of, I would have loved to have owned the internet itself, but it wasn't available. Enter Bitcoin. You see, Bitcoin is the next chapter that the internet began, right? Bitcoin is, if the internet was the internet of information and knowledge, Bitcoin is the internet of money. It took the ball from the internet, which took care of information and knowledge, and passed it to Bitcoin because the internet of information and knowledge could not really deal with money. It couldn't deal with money because the internet became co-opted, controlled, centralized. And anything that is totally co-opted, controlled, and centralized is not supposed to be and can't be a sound money. And so the internet had to pass the ball to chapter 2, which was a brand new open global protocol that did not necessarily focus entirely on information and knowledge, but took what the internet started and brought it to the world of money. And let me just tell you this, the internet of money is exponentially larger than the internet of information and knowledge. But this time, people, we can own the protocol. And I'm here to tell you, I believe this with every ounce of blood that is pumping through my veins this evening here. I believe that the protocol called Bitcoin will unleash the world's next $10 trillion companies. Every new era goes to the next level. Every new era raises the bar. The internet raised the bar, and Bitcoin's going to raise the bar further. Companies that point their whole business to Bitcoin will become the new $10 trillion companies. Companies that stake their claim entirely in the internet, that make their entire business built on top of the Bitcoin network. They're our next $10 trillion companies. And so I pound the table on Bitcoin the same way I pound the table on Amazon, but all the way back in the early 2000s. The gift I got with Amazon was the Twin Tower collapse in New York City. It crushed things to a level that made what I wanted to get into extraordinarily cheap from a US dollar perspective. And that was my opportunity to pounce with everything that I owned at that time. There perhaps are people listening to me today that remember this. I have people with me to this very day that's been with me from the 1990s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and so forth and so on. I've seen this movie before. This is why I can speak so confidently about it. It's the same blueprint. It's the same freaking playbook. It's the same naysayers' silly rebuttals. The same thing I hear about Bitcoin, I heard about the internet in the mid-1990s. It's almost verbatim. It's almost like there's no creativity whatsoever when it comes to just disrespecting opportunity when it presents itself. It's the same silly things over and over and over again. You hear words like fad, no value, no one uses it, it's for criminals, it's for porn, it's for computer geeks. I mean, it's the same wording as if no one today thought of anything. They just revisited all of the things that used to be said about the internet and are just regurgitating them. It's actually quite amusing to me that they haven't changed. But like my dad used to be fond of saying, you can't fix stupid. You cannot fix stupid. All right, guys, listen, I'm sorry for the long little intro there, but I told you guys I can talk your ear off once I get going. And I do have something specific I want to speak to you about. Something came up to me earlier today, and it was something. I was having this conversation with a group of friends, and none of these friends, well, no, some of the friends have Bitcoin and some of them do not. And everyone knows that the topic with me is just going to be about Bitcoin. So we were talking about Bitcoin. And what came up was the conflict between wanting Bitcoin, but also wanting dollars too. So this was spurred by one of my friends saying, well, Oliver, I would actually like to have both. Is that wrong in your view? To have Bitcoin and the wealth potential that Bitcoin has and the freedom aspect of its sound moneyness. I want that. But I also want fiat money too. Is that wrong? And I thought it was such a great question because it came from a place of honesty. It came from a place of true curiosity. It wasn't cute or anything like that. It was from a little bit of confusion. And it also made me think a bit. You see, what I told my friend is that there is nothing wrong with having Bitcoin and dollars. Nothing whatsoever. But you have to choose which one's your master. What I told my friend is that you can't serve two masters. You can have one master and use the other, but you can't serve two masters. And this is what I want to speak to you about. How to serve one master and use the other. How to serve Bitcoin and use the US dollar. You see, that is what I do. There are many people who ask me, Oliver, how do you have so much fiat? How do you have so much cash to continually buy Bitcoin? And to be very honest with you, I show very little of my activity here. It's crazy. I show a very small corner of my activity. I just don't want to dox myself that much. I want to motivate you. But guys, I'm telling you, what you see is nothing. Anyway, I digress. So a lot of people say, Oliver, how do you have all of this cash? How do you have all of this money to constantly buy Bitcoin like this? And there are primarily two reasons. Number one, I think most people who are listening to me here know I'm a trader. The only thing I've ever done with my adult life and part of my teenage life as well is trade financial markets. That's all I know. I've never done anything. I don't have another specialty. I've been doing it for 43 years, 37 of which are professional years. So the beginning were the idiot years. I landed my first job on Wall Street in 1986. I left Wall Street to start my own firm that catered to Wall Street firms in 1994. I told you that's when I put up my first website and so forth and so on. And my career went from there. But there are very few days in my life that I have missed trading the markets. It's the only thing I know how to do. And it's the only thing I feel that my purpose here was to do. Anyway, I take 80% of all gains and I dump it into Bitcoin. I've reached a stage in my life where I don't really need anything. What am I going to do? Go to the same restaurant for the 175th time? Like, I don't need anything. And so I take 20% of my gains on a daily basis, and 80% goes directly into Bitcoin. And that is what I do. And I am fortunate enough to have a constant daily flow. I also have a global community of traders that I fund. I fund them with my own capital, and I split the proceeds with traders all over the world. But I provide the capital. So not only do I take 80% of my personal trading gains and dump it into Bitcoin, any gains that I am sharing from the hundreds of traders spread all over the world that I fund personally, I dump all of that into Bitcoin. All of it. And that is where my capital comes from. Now, this can be applied by anybody. I am mining US dollars through my talent, through my skill, through the only thing that I know how to do in life. Do you understand? I'm using that skill to mine dollars, but in my mind, I'm actually mining Bitcoin because 80% of the dollars I mine through my own trading is actually, in my eyes, Bitcoin. It gets immediately converted to Bitcoin. And 100% of anything outside of that goes directly to Bitcoin. In addition to that, all of my long-term investments that I've had since the 1980s, 1990s, 2000, I've been weaning off out of them, some starting in 2021, and now, and all of that goes to Bitcoin. All of it. I'm on my last portion of Amazon from 2003. I've finished Apple from 1998. I'm on my last portion of Microsoft from 1994 and change, actually. And I've just started selling out of my NVIDIA. Now, all of my traders are aware of this because some of them are in the same place. But what I'm telling you is that I am collapsing everything into Bitcoin. Why? Because Bitcoin's my master now. And that word may not be the most appropriate word to use, but I just thought it was catchy. Another way of saying it, Bitcoin's my unit of account now. Bitcoin is the profit. Whereas that before, people, the US dollar was the profit. The US dollar is not the profit for me anymore. Bitcoin's the profit. So when I'm trading for Bitcoin. I'm not trading for dollars. When I'm cashing out of NVIDIA all the way back from 2010 at a split adjusted price under $2, I am not cashing out for cash for US dollars. I'm cashing out for Bitcoin. I'm thinking, how many Bitcoin do I want to cash out of NVIDIA for today? Bitcoin has become my master, which is another way of saying Bitcoin is my unit of account now. You've lived your whole life with the dollar as your unit of account. You go to work and you trade your time with your employer for dollars. When you make Bitcoin your unit of account, you start to trade your time to your employer for Bitcoin. How many of these hours am I dedicating to Bitcoin? It's a different mindset. Your unit of account has changed. When you use Bitcoin as your unit of account, you start to look at everything through the eyes of Bitcoin. How much Bitcoin is this? How much Bitcoin is this purchase? This is 0.01 of a Bitcoin. Is it worth it? When you start to see the world through the eyes of Bitcoin, you start to become more responsible. You start to become more sound in your decisions. And you were like, that's not worth a quarter of a Bitcoin. Bitcoin, get out of here. That's making Bitcoin your master. That's making Bitcoin your unit of account. Now, where does the US dollar come in? The US dollar comes in being honest about the fact that Bitcoin is today the world's greatest savings technology that humans have ever had access to. It is the greatest store of value that human beings that's ever been presented to human beings. In the history of all of mankind, it's the greatest store of value. It's the greatest savings technology. What it is not yet, and let's be honest, it's not the best medium of exchange. Not yet. And thank God. Remember what I've always reminded you. You don't want Bitcoin to be perfect, because once it's perfect, the opportunity is gone. When is the best opportunity in a prime piece of real estate? Pre-construction, right? The price after construction and after everything is done, after all the I's are dotted, after all the T's are crossed, that price is enormously more. The fact that Bitcoin is not yet a perfect medium of exchange is clear living proof that we're still early. Thank God. So because it is the best store of value in the world, but not yet the best medium of exchange in the world, because it is a rapidly rising asset or store of value, you don't even want to use it as a medium of exchange. So then you need something that is a more superior unit of medium of exchange. And there is no better medium of exchange today than the US dollar. I knock on it, but it's still the best medium of exchange in the world today. The world is still scrambling for US dollars. I'll be in 19 different cities this year. I'll be on 4 different continents. You know what everybody wants? US dollars. Where I'm going. And so we have to be honest with this. I am not one of these Bitcoiners that says you should not have a single dollar. You put everything in Bitcoin. This can only come from poor people. Do you understand? And there's nothing wrong with poor people. Bitcoin's likely to change their life, and they're not going to be poor anymore if they hold on. But that can only come from a poor Bitcoiner. That every single cent you have is in Bitcoin. How? How is that? That is a freaking nightmare for me from a tax perspective, from an accounting perspective. I could never get that signed off by my advisors for the amounts that I'm talking about. That can't happen. Now, if I don't have anything and I'm living paycheck to paycheck, well, of course, then maybe. But I can't live in a way where every single thing is in Bitcoin, and every time I need to shop for groceries, I'm spending Bitcoin. I'm creating taxable events 45 times a day. That's stupid. That's dumb. So What's the point I'm making here? The point I'm making is that by making Bitcoin your unit of account, by pricing everything in Bitcoin before you make a purchase, by understanding that you're working for Bitcoin now, you're not working for the US dollar. How many hours of my work am I going to dedicate to Bitcoin? What portion of my pay goes into Bitcoin? And then what portion do I leave in what I need to use for my everyday life? One we serve, Bitcoin, and the other we use. This is what is called Gresham's law. Now, if you're in front of a computer, I'd like you to really just search this right now while I'm speaking to you. Just look up Gresham's law. A lot of people misconstrue the meaning behind Gresham's law, but Gresham's law states that bad money drives out good money. And that seems counterintuitive. Bad money drives out good money. That's what Gresham's law states, right? And so one might say, well, Oliver, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like bad money, if Bitcoin's good money, bad money drives it out? Yes, bad money drives Bitcoin out. But out where? Out of the medium of exchange realm. You use the bad money to buy your shit with. You don't use the good money for everyday shit. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it drives the good money out into a store, into a vault, into a store of value. It takes it out of circulation. And these bozos that say, well, how can Bitcoin be a money if everybody hodls it? That's what it's supposed to happen based on Gresham's law, you frickin' bozo. That the bad money is supposed to drive the good one into your pocket so that it is not used because it is going up rapidly in value. Nobody wants to use what's going up in value to fill your gas tank up with, to buy eggs and milk with. You hold that because if you buy eggs with it, those are going to be the most expensive eggs ever hatched by a frickin' chicken. A year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. They'll be the most expensive eggs that's ever existed. So you use bad money for eggs. You use bad money for milk. You use bad money to fill your tank up with, and you save, you protect, you hodl, you adore the good money. You don't let someone get to the good money. You don't let someone see the good money. You don't let someone touch the good money. It's rising too quickly in value. It's protecting my future. It's multiplying my future. It's increasing my future. I'm holding on tight to this. I will use the bullshit to get rid of. I will get rid of the bullshit money. I will get rid of the bullshit money to take care of my bullshit needs. I will pay my rent with the bullshit money. I will pay for eggs and milk and diet soda and cereal. I hope that's not the shit you're putting in your body, but you know what I'm saying. I will buy my food. I'm not going to take the frickin' Mona Lisa and walk around to buy a loaf of bread with the Mona Lisa. I'm going to protect the Mona Lisa. I'm going to lock the Mona Lisa away and use something else to take care of my life. Now, there will be a point where Bitcoin tapers off. Not in your lifetime, not in my lifetime, but there will be a point, not in our lifetimes, where it will taper off and it will become more stable. And this stability will make it more susceptible to start to be used in a trade for this, trade for that scenario, because the opportunity cost is less. It doesn't go up that much anymore. It stays stable. It goes up, but not like it used to. And so I don't mind exchanging it for this now, because the opportunity cost, it's not going to make this extraordinarily expensive 3 years from now. I don't think that this happens in our lifetime, by the way. But what a lot of people don't understand is that a sound money must go through 4 stages of evolution. And this is what the shitcoiners don't understand. And quite frankly, this is what most people, even sophisticated, educated people, have not sat down to study money, the history of money. They spend their life working for money. They spend the majority of their time dedicated to trying to earn money, and they have never sat down to study money, to study the history of all the monies that have ever existed. What brought them into existence? Which monies lasted the longest? Which monies have died, and the reasons why they died? Why did this money die faster than all the other monies? Why did this money last longer than all the monies? Why does every money die? What's the problem? So most people have not sat down to study the history of money, yet they dedicate their entire lives to getting it. Seems stupid to me. But I've done the study for you. You see, a sound money has certain properties, but it also, with these properties, it has to go through 4 stages. And this is what I want to quickly touch upon tonight with you. The 4 stages that a sound money must go through to complete itself. First, it starts off as a collectible. So I want you to imagine gold coming into, someone eventually found gold and thought it was interesting and maybe made a little necklace, and it started to become a collectible. The first stage is a collectible. Monies start off being collectibles. That's how they start their life. Someone says, wow, that's a cute little necklace. What is that? Look at that ring. Or what is that, made out of seashells? Seashells were money. What is that made out of? What is that shiny gold thing? What is that, gold? Gold is money. Oh, wow, look at those beads. Agri beads were money. So they first start, sound money has started off as a collectible. Tobacco used to be money. It used to be smoked, collectible. It used to collect little cigar-like little things and collect. They used to collect the leaves and air them out. Money started out as a collectible. Sound money started out as a collectible. Stage 1. As more and more people collect it and see value in collecting it, it starts to go up in price. More people are interested in collecting it. It starts to go up in value. Some people who are not interested in collecting it but see the rising value, they just want it because the value's rising. Enter stage 2, store of value. I have no freaking interest in wearing a fat rapper's gold chain, but I am interested in holding on to some gold because it rises in value over time against the US dollar. So we have transitioned from people just being interested in the collector's value of it to, no, I don't care about collecting this shit. It just goes up in price. I'm holding on to it. I want some to hold on to it. That's the store of value phase. And this is where Bitcoin is. Bitcoin started off as a collectible. It was some interesting little piece of technology that computer geeks and cypherpunks were interested in, and it caught some interest amongst the niche libertarian groups. It was cutesy. Oh, Bitcoin is a little cutesy. It's internet money. And then people who had no idea of its ethos, they had no idea of its power, of its limited supply, of its the beauty and elegance of the protocol. They just saw the freaking price going up and saying, I want some. Enter store of value. I'm not interested in collecting it. I just see the price. I see that it can help my future. In the future, I'll be able to sell this higher. Store of value. And it is this second phase, this store of value phase, that is the most important stage for us, because it is the number go up stage of a money's evolutionary process. We are in the store of value, the early store of value phase of a money that is becoming a full-fledged money, a burgeoning money that is becoming a full-fledged money. You can't call Bitcoin a full-fledged money until it goes through all four stages. We're only at stage 2. We're still early, and we're early in the very best stage of a money, because the stage where the money goes up in value the most dramatically, the most exponentially, in the most mind-bending way is the store of value stage. And we've just begun the store of value phase. Congratulations, Bitcoiners. Not only is the store of value phase the most impressive in terms of price appreciation, it is far longer in duration than the first phase of being a collectible. So if the collectible stage for the most part took 13, 14, 15 years, the store of value phase will take decade after decade after decade, maybe even a century or two. We're talking about a long time, way past my life, way past your life. We'll be in a store of value phase, a rising price phase, a multiplying your wealth, a multiplying your future phase for the rest of your life and beyond. If you don't believe me, I am just giving you the cliff notes from all the study I've ever done with money and searching out the history of every money that came into existence and died and its life cycle in all the four stages. Giving you the cliff notes, but you can do the research yourself. The store of value phase is the longest of a sound money that has sound money properties. That's a different talk. Divisibility, fungibility, transferability, verifiability. Those are characteristics of sound money. But when it's not enough for something to have those characteristics, it must go through the four stages, and it can't cheat. It can't skip over one. You can't go from the first stage and skip to the fourth one. It doesn't work that way. This is what the shitcoiners and the altcoiners, this is where they go wrong. And this is why they're all scammers. They're trying to cheat the 4-step process of becoming a true, sound, full-fledged money. So we're at store of value, where price doubles, triples, quadruples for the rest of your life. That is where we are with Bitcoin. What comes after that is the medium of exchange. This is your third stage of a money that is evolving. You see, you can't have a truly robust, sound medium of exchange until almost everybody on earth has some Bitcoin. If you look at all of your family members, how many of them have Bitcoin? None of them. Your neighbors, how many of them? None of them have Bitcoin. Your friends, none of them. Your church members, none of them. Your bowling team, none of them. The dads at your son's, little league baseball, none of them. Your coworkers, none of them. So how can Bitcoin be a medium of exchange? A money only can become a medium of exchange after almost everyone stores it in some amount. So that a medium of exchange Bitcoin will start to naturally morph into a medium of exchange when you can walk down a busy street and know that every single person passing me has Bitcoin. That's when it can become a true, robust medium of exchange. Not when you pass everybody on the street and say, look at all these bozos. None of them are even thinking about Bitcoin right now. None of them even knows that the house is on fire and they need Bitcoin. Not a single person passing me. I know some of you have thought like that. I think like that. Look at these oblivious people. They have no idea that they're being stolen from. They have no idea that they're getting poorer by the second. Every single step they take on this street, they're worth less, and they don't even know. Look at them. They're blissfully ignorant. But there will be a day when you pass everyone on the street and know that every single human being you pass today has Bitcoin. That's when it can become a medium of exchange. And until then, use the bullshit dollar. Use the Argentinian peso bullshit. Use whatever bullshit you have to on your bullshit needs, and you save what is exponentially rising in price. You hoard what is multiplying your wealth. You guard what is protecting your future and making sure that you are better by the hour, by the week, by the year, by the decade, and not worse. So you get rid of what is making you worse and you hold on tightly to what is making you better. This is Gresham's law. The bad money is used so that you pull the good money away. It draws the good money out of the medium of exchange world and puts it in the vault where it belongs. And then comes Tears law. You see, first there's Gresham's law, and then there's Tears law. Tears law takes the baton from Gresham's law, like a relay race. Gresham's law says, okay, Tear, I've run as far as I can go. Here, let me pass the baton to you. And then Tear says, I got you. Bing! And then Tears law takes off with the baton. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, what is Tears law? The good money drives out the bad money. It flips it, in a sense. And this is when medium of exchange takes over and the money stops exponentially going up in price, which will always stop it from being a medium of exchange, and tapers, but holds, still rises, but not so exponentially anymore. The opportunity cost to trade with it now is not as high as it used to be. And now this medium of exchange starts to drive out the bad medium of exchange. It has come to take over from the bad medium of exchange. That's the Tears law phase of a money's evolutionary process. And so let me tell you how this happens. You do a job for someone on the side. and they're going to pay you, and you say, look, I'm not taking dollars for this. You got to pay me in Bitcoin. You're willing to give you go into a coffee shop or store, and the store owner tells you, I'm sorry, we only accept Bitcoin. We don't take dollars anymore. I have services today that I will only accept Bitcoin for. So you see it here and there, but in the future, it is going to start to spread like a freaking virus where someone says, I'm not taking that piece of junk, dude. What are you talking about? Give me Bitcoin. Give me some Satoshis for this, man. I'm not taking that. I don't take dollars anymore, dude. What are you trying? Why are you trying to stick me with that? And increasingly, it's going to start from one person, then 10 people, then 10,000 people, then 10 million people. They're going to be one business, then 100 businesses, and then millions of businesses until you just have a world where it's just a growing world where I'm not taking government bullshit anymore, dude. I'm sorry. I'm only taking Bitcoin. Go find some Bitcoin if you want my services. Go find some Bitcoin if you want this product. You want this car? Get me Bitcoin. I'm not accepting your bullshit. And that's the Tier's law phase. That's the medium of exchange phase. And that is way off for Bitcoin. And thank God it's way off. We don't want to rush medium of exchange, guys, because we want to sit back in the store of value phase and let this thing run and double and triple and quadruple our entire lives. Don't rush medium of exchange. Use the dollar. Use your bullshit for medium of exchange. Store your Bitcoin. It's in the meteoric store of value phase. You don't sell a store of value. You don't trade with a store of value. And I know this is going to make a lot of Bitcoin maxis angry, because a lot of Bitcoin maxis, in my opinion, talk about how, well, if you don't use it, that's not the purpose of Bitcoin. Bullshit. They don't understand the 4 stages of money. Even they don't understand the 4 stages of money. They don't understand that you can't be a solid medium of exchange unless you have spent an inordinate amount of time in a store of value to the point where almost everyone has the item that becomes a medium of exchange. Everyone doesn't have Bitcoin. How can it become a medium of exchange right now? It has never been true throughout history, and it won't be true today. And this is not a flaw. It's a blessing. Because medium of exchange brings down a quelling of price increases. So we serve the store of value. It is the store of value that we place our life with, our future with the store of value. Our wealth goes into the store of value. Our family is trusted to the store of value. Generations not born yet is placed at the feet of the store of value. We get rid of the dirty medium of exchange. We use one and we serve the other. You can't serve them both. You're either a Bitcoin maxi or you're a fiat maxi. You can't be both. You have to know the individual roles each one of these plays. One is a junkie, get rid of it as fast as I can on all of my bullshit role. And one is, this is my protector role. This is my savior role. This money plays the role of my savior, my protector, protector, my freedom, my future, my safety, my security. This one I treat like a freaking hot potato, and it's in and it's out. It's in and it's out. And that is what I do. So when someone says, Oliver, man, you're too bearish if you have all of this cash to buy Bitcoin. And my answer is always the same. Dude, it comes in droves by the hour. What would you have me do with it? It literally comes in by the hour. What am I supposed to do with it? Not buy Bitcoin with it? I get rid of it as fast as it comes in. I don't hold on to it, a lot of it. Now, I do believe it's smart to hold on to some. I mean, this is being responsible as a man who's responsible for his family, or woman as well sometimes. You need to have something in a fiat-dominated world. We're still in a fiat-dominated world. You still need some type of fiat in case something happens to one of your children or your mother. Or, you got to have that. Now, you can put that in Bitcoin if you're willing to just cash it out when you need it. Fine. But I don't ever really want to cash out a single Satoshi. Something happens in the soul when you sell even a little bit. Something happens that you can never get back. It's like breaking an egg. You can't ever put it back. It's like toothpaste out of the tube. You can't get it back in. It's something, there's a psychological disconnect when you are willing to let even the smallest amount go. Something happens. Something reverberates in the soul. I'm telling you. If you haven't done it, don't do it. Live your life in a way where you never have to touch a Satoshi until you can borrow against it. And this day is coming very rapidly, where you'll be able to borrow against your Bitcoin and never pay the loan back, ever. Just pay the interest until the amount of Bitcoin that's backing that loan is so small, you get rid of it at the end. This day is coming, and it's coming very, very fast. All right, guys, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. How to reconcile the two worlds we live in, to be in the world, but not of this clown world. We've got to have one foot in clown world, right? We can't be so naive to think that we're completely out of clown world. We've got 1 foot in clown world and 1 foot securely rooted in freedom, in Bitcoin. And we've got to straddle those two worlds right now. And we have to deal with two types of money. The store of value money, the one we serve, and the shitty medium of exchange money we get rid of, in and out. And that's how we reconcile these two. Now, I want to take some questions here before I go. I got cut off last night. Right. In my taking questions here, but let's see if you have any questions for me here. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. That's cool. Let's see what you got for me. Sonny Poe is asking me, Oliver, did you hear the same that there was no intrinsic value to the internet back in the early 2000s? No, I actually heard it in the 1990s. Not so much in 2000. In the early 2000s, it was supposedly still a fad. Now, let me quickly tell you um, what I saw with Amazon and how I was fought on this. So, guys, my first book had recently been published, right? And it was started off slow and became just this runaway international smashing hit. All right. And so I lived in New York City, and I would go to bookstores and actually sign the book as a surprise to anyone who would buy the book. And it was like, oh my God, Oliver signed the book, right? So I would do that. And so on this one given day, I went to Barnes and Noble on the Upper West Side in the 80s. And I looked for my book on the shelf and it wasn't there. I called over one of the workers and I said, my book's not here. I wanted to sign one of the books. And he says, well, that book is sold out. And I said, well, wait a minute. Like, so when are you getting a new shipment? And he's like, I actually don't think that we're going to be buying another shipment right now. And I'm like, what? This is a bestseller. And he's like, no, I know the book would come in and leave almost instantly. We realize that, but we have so many other new books that need shelf space. And this was published a while back. So the newer books coming in need to have the shelf space. And I'm like, what? Like that's how this works? And he's like, well, yeah, this is how it works. Like I said, call over your manager. The manager came over and explained to me, and he said, Mr. Velez, listen, your book is still selling like hotcakes, but we can only really give it a certain period of time to ensure that it's on the shelf to meet the demand. But when we're doing that, so many new books are coming into circulation that need a certain period of time on our limited shelf space as well. So even if it's a good seller, we may have to forego it on the shelf to make room for the backlog of all the new books that have been written since your book was published. And I'm like, I didn't even know it works that way. And he said, yes, it does. And it dawned on me right there, guys, right there. I'm like, OMG. You know when it dawned on me? He says, so I said, but then where can people go to? And he says, well, you can buy it on Amazon. And right there, guys, I'm like, holy, it just laid out in front of me. You see, Amazon digitized shelf space. You see, Barnes and Noble had physical shelf space. Their physical shelf space was limited to a certain number of books, and they had to actually have an inventory manager to make an executive decision. These books are off the shelf. These books are on the shelf. Amazon didn't need that person because digital shelves are infinite. Digital shelves are not limited. Amazon does not have to choose what goes on the shelf. It can put everything on the shelf because the shelf is digital. And I'm like, holy shit. This company's going to take over the freaking world. And I started thinking of all the stores, all the retail outlets that have limited space in their concrete stores. I'm like, Amazon's going to take them out. Amazon's going to take Sears out. Where I used to go buy my appliances and tools. Amazon's going to take this place out. Amazon's going to take that place out. Amazon's going to take freaking everything out. And it all started for me looking for copies of my book in a physical bookstore to sign as a surprise for people that were going to come in and buy it. That's where the Amazon epiphany hit me. And from that day, not only did I sink everything I could get my hands on in Amazon, and let me tell you, by this point, guys, I'd done extraordinarily well in life. Extraordinarily well. I got everything I could get my hands on. I sunk it into Amazon. People thought I was freaking crazy. I refused to talk about anything else. I pounded the table until every single table broke. People got bored with me. People got sick of me. People stopped inviting me to events and social events because the only thing I wouldn't shut my mouth up about Amazon. And this very day, I get Christmas cards from the kids of families. It's, Mr. Velez, I graduated from Harvard because my dad followed your Amazon play. To this very day. To this very day, I have people who are loyal to me, maybe even listening to my talk here today, because of our Amazon play. And I believe it's as certain as night follows the day that 15 years from now, 10 years from now, people will be saying, they're already starting to say it from 2020, Oliver, my life was changed because I followed the Bitcoin play. It's the same movie. It's like watching the same movie where you can repeat the main actor's lines. I've seen it before, people. I've seen it before play out the same freaking way. And that's the value of having someone who's older, has gone through enough cycles to see the repetitive nature of those cycles. And as a kicker, someone who played those cycles extraordinarily well, which I have to say I did. All right. 1st June B. Oliver, I'm setting up a multi-sig wallet for myself and my business partner. I thought I answered this question for you yesterday, 1st June. What do you think about having 3 keys of 24 words each? Yes, 1 key for each business partner. That's what I explained. And the 3rd key split in 2 sets of 12 words. No, I don't like that. No, I think that, you have to be careful about over complexity with this because, believe it or not, the greatest cause for loss of Bitcoin generational wealth is user error. And one of the greatest nemesis in that category of user error is over complexity. And so you want to really stay away from that. I just think that's just a little bit too convoluted. You want a 2 of 3 multi-sig, 1 key with a lawyer, 1 key with you, 1 key with your partner. The lawyer has a document that is signed off by both of you that dictates and stipulates upon agreement by both of you under what circumstances he can sign with a partner to access the Bitcoin. And that's it. And you're done. And then make your business your focus. Go out there and change the world with your business. That is my advice to you. And if you want more professional guidance, contact an Unchained Capital. Contact a Noonchuck. I love Noonchuck as well. I love Unchained Capital. I love Noonchuck. I'm not a big fan of Casa, but you can contact Casa as well. I only like to support Bitcoin only firms. And when Casa began to support Ethereum, I was out. So that is my suggestion to you. Let's see here. Do I have? I'm trying to get this right, guys. I'm trying to make sure that I'm picking up on your questions. Um, what are some of the best mediums currently that can be used to borrow against your Bitcoin? Well, I think in the next few years, almost every single bank will offer these services. So I'm actually hoping that you don't want to do that now because Bitcoin is in the midst of a bull market. And I'd say it's highly probable, guys, that we will experience the biggest bull market in Bitcoin's history. I think that is a better than medium chance that is what we're going to experience this time. And I think I mentioned to you last night that the best time to borrow Bitcoin is at the, after a major drawdown in price, not after a major up move in price. You run the risk of losing your Bitcoin. Now, I know that some of the entities right now that are in this space early and are doing it, the interest rates, because they have gone up, obviously, over the past year and a half, that the interest rates you consider to be high, but you have to look at your interest rate relative to the performance of Bitcoin. So you got to step out of the traditional world a little bit. So if you're giving up your Bitcoin to someone else, you're going to get a low interest rate because they're going to use your Bitcoin, maybe even for bullshit things, and they might lose it. You don't ever want rehypothecation of your Bitcoin. So if you're going to post Bitcoin as collateral and it is not going to be used by anyone, it is going to sit there as collateral and no one is going to have access to it. No one's going to be able to do something with it, trade with it, lend it out. Then they don't have another way of making money other than the interest rate. So low interest rates mean they're doing something with your asset. If they're not doing something with your asset, which you don't want them to do, they're going to have a higher interest rate. Now, is that higher interest rate small in comparison to Bitcoin's annualized average up move in a bull market? So if it's 14% and Bitcoin goes up 200% relative to the 200%, that's big? No, it's not. You've got to look at it relative to in Bitcoin terms. And you've got to look at it as a safer loan because nothing's going to happen to your Bitcoin. There were people who are lending their Bitcoin out to Celsius for these astronomical rates, but Celsius was taking the Bitcoin and gambling with it. Right? They were loaning money to you at low interest rates just to keep your Bitcoin so that they could gamble with it. So remember, these cheap things are cheap at a price. You don't ever want to lose it. So the rates on non-rehypothecated Bitcoin are always going to be higher than your TradFi rates, Jeremy. And in relationship to what Bitcoin can do, those rates are still very small as far as I'm concerned. PickDoc 581, how long before Fidelity and BlackRock announced they are adding 1, 2, or 3% allocation to U.S. target retirement funds? Why wouldn't they just announce it now? It can only benefit them. Okay. I think I understand your question. Wall Street doesn't degen in the way people here on Bitcoin Twitter do. They stage in. And so Wall Street's going to come into Bitcoin over the next 20 years, guys. This is not going to be, oh, Wall Street's here in a few months they're in. That's not how that works. This is a 20-year entry. And you want it to be that. It's relentless. It doesn't stop. It's one domino after the next domino. Now it's pensions that start to come in. And then sovereign wealth funds start to come in. And then it's municipalities start to come in. And then it's the whole retirement element that starts to come. It happens domino after domino after domino. And each one is bigger than the prior one. This is a 20-year blowing up a balloon that we're going to ride like freaking masters. Wall Street's going to be a permanent bid under Bitcoin for 20 years. Do you understand the power of this? Wait for Wall Street to start including the Bitcoin ETF in every single mutual fund. Every single mutual fund will have 2, 3, 5, 6, 8% of the mutual fund will represent IBIT or whatever Bitcoin ETF. Every single one, every single ETF in existence will diversify with a little taste of Bitcoin. That's not even close. That's not coming here yet. But when it comes, oh my God. I want you to think about every there's more mutual funds than stocks. Think about every ETF. There's more ETFs than stocks. Think of every ETF adding Bitcoin as a 2%, 3% allocation. Every mutual fund adding it, even if the mutual fund has nothing to do with Bitcoin, they're going to add it anyway. Wall Street needs Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't need them. They need alpha, buddy. They're failing. They're failing. They need a little sprinkle of Bitcoin, and they know it. They're all coming. This is a spigot that will not only stop running for 20 plus years, it's going to keep getting turned up for 20 years. Do you imagine how the hose gets turned on more after a full cycle? And Bitcoin's at $500,000. Do you understand what's going to happen when Bitcoin's the ninth most valuable asset on planet Earth? What happens when it's the third? More FOMO in. You mean it's the third most valuable? What's going to happen when it's the the most valuable? Everyone. What do you think is going to happen when it takes out gold? Every country now has an asset that is more than their number one asset. The number one hard money asset for every country in the world is gold, right? Well, what happens when something's worth more than gold? Bitcoin. Now gold is second. They're going to flip to Bitcoin, every single country in the world. Guys, you don't understand how these dominoes are just going to fall, and each domino is going to be bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger than the prior one. And you want to trade this? You want to short this? This level of stupidity is so low. I mean, it's so high. The IQ behind those activities are so low. It's stupefying. Go find something else to short. Go find something else to trade. There's a freaking sea of it out there. Just don't do it here. Don't be this low, that low IQ. And as I'm fond of saying, find some freaking loyalty. Be loyal to something for once in your life. Stand your ground, sir, madam. Be firm. And stop letting money dictate every one of your actions. Be a principled individual. Don't let every little flicker of the price make you scared, make you want to exit or get out. This is being controlled by money instead of by principle. If there's anything to be principled about in this world, it is Bitcoin, because it's never failed you. It's never lied to you. It's never reneged on you. It's never been down. It's the safest vault the world has ever known. It's the best savings technology that humans have ever had access to. It can't be stolen, can't be confiscated, can't go down, can't be shut down, can't go down. It's the most secure thing we have. If there's anything that exists that deserves your loyalty, that deserves that you approach it in a principled way, it's Bitcoin. Find some freaking loyalty and stop being moved by every little price wind that goes by. And try to get some vision from somewhere. Look a little bit past your freaking nose, just a little bit. Use the internet's history to give you a deeper understanding of what's going to happen with Bitcoin. What happened to the internet in 20 years is going to happen to Bitcoin, yet it's going to be on steroids because money is bigger than that. Go to work, people. You know what to do. Go to work. Stack harder, guys. Stack harder. Ciao for now. Boom. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom.